South suburban politician Tiffany Henyard appears to have lost control of both governments. Now she's teasing a big announcement that she claims will result in some of her opponents being arrested and charged.
Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor of Dolton, Illinois, is at the center of a political storm that feels more like a reality show than real life. Facing eviction from her own home over unpaid rent, under federal investigation for corruption, and accused of misusing taxpayer funds, Henyard's leadership is marred by scandal. Despite the FBI's ongoing probe into her financial dealings, she has reportedly sought to use law enforcement to target her political opponents. Yet, in the midst of all this chaos, Henyard remains undeterred, launching a campaign for re-election as if her track record were spotless. Her tale of power, controversy, and defiance has left residents and critics captivated and outraged.
Just point the finger to Tiffany or allow me. I'm over it. Now it's time for me.
The ongoing eviction saga of Mayor Tiffany Henyard has cast a glaring spotlight on her personal and financial conduct, further fueling the growing controversy surrounding her leadership. Despite earning a substantial salary as both the mayor of Dolton and township supervisor, Henyard is facing eviction for failing to pay rent on a property owned by Janetta Hall. What started as an amicable relationship between the two women quickly soured when Henyard allegedly forced her way into the rental home, disregarding an existing arrangement that would have allowed another tenant to move in. Hall claims that Henyard, along with her boyfriend Kamal Woods, who also draws a taxpayer-funded salary from the township, has not paid rent for several months, and is missing payments for a tenant in a lawsuit alleged that Dave has been raping minors and breaking their arms. The situation has since escalated into a bitter legal battle, with Hall seeking to have Henyard and Woods evicted. For many Dolton residents, the scandal is yet another example of Henyard's pattern of questionable decision-making and disregard for accountability. Janetta Hall's ordeal with Mayor Tiffany Henyard has become a symbol of the growing criticism surrounding Henyard's financial responsibility and leadership. Hall, who had already lined up another prospective tenant for her rental property, says Henyard's sudden interest in the house felt more like a demand than a request. Reluctantly, Hall agreed to let Henyard move in, a decision that would prove costly. Since August, Henyard and her boyfriend Kamal Woods have failed to pay rent, leaving Hall and her partner thousands of dollars in arrears. This glaring inconsistency between Henyard's high-paying public roles as mayor of Dolton and township supervisor, positions that demand integrity and financial responsibility, and her refusal to meet basic obligations has sparked outrage. Hall, once accommodating, is now seeking legal recourse, calling out Henyard's conduct as not only unethical, but also a betrayal of public trust. For many, this scandal is yet another chapter in the growing list of controversies linked to Henyard's leadership. Once considered a friend, Janetta Hall now finds herself in a financial bind, caused by Mayor Tiffany Henyard's refusal to pay rent. Despite occupying Hall's property since August, Henyard and her boyfriend, Kamal Woods, have failed to make any payments, leaving Hall to shoulder the financial burden. Frustrated and out of options, Hall has taken legal action, initiating the eviction process to reclaim her property and recover the overdue rent that's accumulated over time. Meanwhile, Henyard appears unbothered, continuing her public duties as mayor with an air of defiance that has left many residents baffled. Her refusal to meet her financial obligations, especially while earning a substantial taxpayer-funded salary, has only fueled public outrage. This latest controversy adds to a growing list of scandals linked to Henyard's leadership, raising questions about her judgment, integrity, and commitment to the very community she was elected to serve. The controversies surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard's tenure go far beyond her unpaid rent, with critics highlighting the stark hypocrisy of someone in positions of significant power failing to demonstrate personal responsibility and accountability. As both mayor of Dolton and supervisor of a nearby township, Henyard holds roles that require the management of public resources, making her personal financial misconduct even more troubling. Her inability to fulfill basic rental obligations, despite earning a substantial taxpayer-funded salary, underscores a growing pattern of questionable leadership. This rent debacle is just one piece of a larger narrative that includes allegations of financial mismanagement, misuse of public funds, and mounting legal troubles. The situation has fueled public outrage and raised deeper concerns about her capacity to lead, as the gap between her personal conduct and professional responsibilities continues to widen. The saga surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard has taken a shocking turn, with revelations that she allegedly changed the locks on her rental home, effectively barring her landlord, Janetta Hall, from accessing the property, a direct violation of tenant-landlord laws. What began as an amicable arrangement quickly devolved into a bitter dispute, with Hull now pursuing legal action to reclaim her property and recover months of unpaid rent. Critics argue that this incident highlights a deeply troubling side of Henyard's character, raising questions about her integrity and respect for legal obligations. As the mayor of Dolton and a township supervisor, Henyard holds roles that demand transparency, accountability, and trust, yet her personal conduct appears to contradict these principles. This latest scandal has only deepened the divide between Henyard and Dolton residents, many of whom are growing increasingly vocal about her leadership, financial mismanagement, and perceived disregard for both public and personal responsibilities. Mayor Tiffany Henyard and her partner Kamal Woods are facing allegations of taking extreme measures to block landlord Janetta Hull from accessing her own rental property. Despite Hull providing a standard 48-hour notice for inspection, reports claim Henyard changed the garage door code and the locks, effectively locking Hull out. This move forced Hull to file for eviction and pursue legal action, but the situation has only escalated, as Henyard and Woods have allegedly been evading service of the eviction papers, despite multiple attempts by the local sheriff's office. The ordeal has left Hull financially strained and deeply frustrated, transforming a routine landlord-tenant relationship into a high-pressure courtroom, likely in late edition. Critics argue that this incident highlights a troubling pattern of behavior from Henyard, raising concerns about her accountability and transparency as a public official, especially given her dual role as both mayor of Dolton and township supervisor. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's ongoing eviction saga has taken a startling turn, leaving former friend and landlord Janetta Hull not only owed thousands in back rent but also locked out of her own property. This act, allegedly orchestrated by Henyard and her partner Kamal Woods, has drawn sharp criticism from the community, highlighting a troubling contradiction in Henyard's role as a public official. As both the mayor of Dolton and supervisor of Thornton Township, Henyard holds positions that demand integrity, transparency, and accountability, qualities now being called into question. Her decision to allegedly change the locks and garage code, barring Hull from accessing her own home, has been seen as a blatant disregard for the very laws she is supposed to uphold. With Henyard reportedly evading attempts by the local sheriff's office to serve eviction papers, many see this as yet another instance of her using her power to skirt responsibility. This growing scandal has only further tarnished her public image, painting a picture of a leader who seems more interested in self-preservation than in upholding the principles of justice and fairness. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's ongoing eviction battle with her landlord, Janetta Hull, has become a symbol of the widening gap between her responsibilities as a public official and her personal actions. While Henyard maintains control of the rental home, it is Hull who faces the financial burden and the frustration of navigating a legal process made more difficult by Henyard's alleged resistance. What began as a routine landlord-tenant dispute has spiraled into a high-profile saga that has captured the attention of the Dolton community and fueled growing concerns about Henyard's leadership. The situation highlights a troubling disparity between Henyard's public role as mayor and supervisor, positions that demand accountability and integrity, and her personal conduct, which critics argue reflects neither. As Hull continues to push for legal resolution, the controversy surrounding Henyard's leadership only deepens, further eroding public trust in her ability to fulfill her duties with transparency and responsibility. The mayor's disturbing disregard for legal and financial obligations has raised serious concerns. While it remains uncertain whether Henyard will be held accountable for her actions, one thing is clear: the trust between her and those around her continues to deteriorate, sparking increasing calls for accountability. This eviction debacle is just one more scandal in a growing list of controversies that further alienate her from the people of Dolton. The community is now faced with the difficult question of whether they can continue to tolerate such behavior from a leader who, instead of leading by example, seems determined to subvert the very rules she is meant to uphold.
Henyard's landlord, and she says she came to this Thornton Township meeting Tuesday night hoping to get paid, or what she says.
The entire situation surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard and her refusal to pay rent despite earning an impressive annual salary is nothing short of perplexing. Henyard and her partner, Kamal Woods, who also has a stable income through a township program, are both bringing in well over $300,000 a year. Yet, they have been unwilling to pay a rent increase of just $200, citing property tax hikes as the reason for their inability to afford the change. For someone with their income, this claim seems outlandish, leaving many to wonder how such a situation could have unfolded. The frustration is palpable, particularly for Janetta Hull, the landlord, who once considered Henyard a trusted figure in the community. Hull's growing disbelief at Henyard's actions has only intensified as she is forced to navigate this ongoing ordeal. Despite Mayor Tiffany Henyard's significant financial means, the battle over unpaid rent has escalated, with Janetta Hull, her landlord, growing increasingly frustrated. Hull had hoped that Henyard, as a high-profile public servant, would set a good example for the community by fulfilling basic financial responsibilities. However, Henyard's actions have only tarnished her reputation, highlighting a significant disconnect between her political persona and personal behavior. In desperation, Hull has been forced to hire a process server to locate Henyard and bring her to court, as both Henyard and her partner Kamal Woods have reportedly been avoiding legal papers, including eviction notices. The absurdity of the situation is impossible to ignore. Given Henyard's status and financial standing, it's hard to fathom how a $200 rent increase has become the focal point of such a contentious dispute. Henyard's failure to pay a mere $200 rent increase is an astonishing act of bad faith, and it appears to be part of a larger pattern of financial irresponsibility. This behavior has not only shattered Hull's trust, but has also damaged Henyard's standing with the residents of Dolton, a community that holds its public servants to higher standards. It's baffling that Henyard would place herself in such a position, where her financial mismanagement is causing unnecessary strain on those around her, especially in a matter that could have been easily resolved. Instead of addressing the issue responsibly and transparently, Henyard has repeatedly avoided the consequences of her actions, making the situation increasingly untenable. The escalating situation surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard and her partner Kamal Woods, both of whom earn significant salaries, raises serious concerns not only about their personal finances, but also about their integrity as public figures. This debacle points to a larger issue of accountability in leadership, as Henyard's actions contradict the values she is meant to represent as a public official. For Janetta Hull, who once considered Henyard a trusted friend, this ordeal has been painful and surreal. Forced to take legal action against someone she once trusted, Hull is left questioning how someone with so much financial means could neglect such basic responsibilities. The situation surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard's refusal to pay rent despite her financial stability marks a troubling chapter in her leadership. Once seen as a trailblazer in Dolton, Henyard's actions now raise serious questions about her credibility and integrity. Her failure to address a modest rent increase, coupled with her avoidance of legal processes, has left the community in disbelief and frustration. At the same time, this latest controversy adds to a growing list of questionable decisions, and many are wondering if this will be the final straw that prompts Dolton residents to demand greater accountability and change in leadership. It's a baffling turn of events that undermines trust in a public official who should be setting an example of responsibility.
To see her tenant in person after she says Henyard has been dodging both her and rent payments for months.
The financial troubles in Dolton have been well documented, but the actions of Mayor Tiffany Henyard have taken things to a new level. Former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot's investigation into Henyard's spending has uncovered some truly shocking findings. Dolton's general fund, which was once a healthy $5.61 million, has plummeted to a staggering deficit of $365 million. A loss of over $9 million. Lightfoot's probe revealed that much of that money was funneled into personal expenses, including purchases from Amazon, Wayfair, and Walgreens. Even more concerning, these purchases were made under Henyard's supervision, adding to the growing list of financial mismanagement and questionable behavior. The financial mismanagement under Mayor Tiffany Henyard continues to shock the community. A recent board meeting had to be canceled due to a lack of quorum after trustees raised safety concerns about the meeting's location. On the same day, Henyard made two other significant purchases, one for nearly $5,000 and another for over $4,700. However, the most jaw-dropping of these expenditures came on January 5, 2023, when Henyard made an Amazon purchase totaling $40,000. What could she possibly have been buying? Her extravagant spending didn't stop there. Just months later, in September 2023, she spent nearly $7,700 on Wayfair. These shocking purchases are part of an already extensive list of questionable expenses, and according to Lightfoot's investigation, Dolton's finances have suffered greatly as a result. The village has also issued numerous unpaid checks, exacerbating the growing crisis. Dolton's financial crisis continues to escalate, with more than $6 million in unpaid checks to local vendors. A total of 589 checks were printed but never sent, leaving companies in the dark as they wait for payments that may never come. The town's mounting debt only adds to the frustration. Meanwhile, Dolton's police officers are making headlines for receiving overtime pay that surpasses their annual salaries, highlighting the reckless financial decisions under Henyard's leadership. In addition, concerns about the safety of holding meetings at certain locations have further raised alarms. How did Dolton's leadership become so careless with its finances, especially at such a critical time? In an astonishing turn of events, one officer in Dolton earned nearly $102,000 in overtime, while another, with a base salary of $87,000, took home an additional $11,800. This raises serious questions about how such a scenario has been allowed to persist for so long, especially considering the financial struggles of the town itself. Meanwhile, it seems that everyone in Dolton's government, including Mayor Tiffany Henyard, is benefiting financially, while the town is on the brink of collapse. Despite all the allegations of corruption and mismanagement, Henyard is still desperately clinging to her position of power. In a particularly heated public meeting, she defiantly stated, "You all forget, I'm the leader," as trustees and others who challenge her authority continue to face her relentless attacks. Kiafen was heard after meetings. The divide between Henyard and the community only deepens with each passing day. In a tense public exchange, Mayor Tiffany Henyard voiced her frustration with the trustees for refusing to authorize expenses without proper documentation. She expressed annoyance, saying, "We're sick of coming here and not having the laws followed and not having a meeting. It's just becoming monotonous." The trustees, however, have openly criticized Henyard's leadership, with trustee Jason House accusing her of a lack of transparency in the village's finances. Briefly, she pointed out that this lack of clarity is the reason suppliers aren't being paid, and why the board can't authorize expenditures without knowing where the money is going. In the midst of this, trustee Brittany Norwood also criticized Henyard, urging her to step up and be a good leader by presenting proposals to the board for approval, further intensifying the public divide between Henyard and the rest of the board. The tension between Mayor Tiffany Henyard and the trustees is reaching a boiling point, with residents and the broader public questioning how taxpayer money is being spent. Henyard's refusal to back down has fueled an even deeper divide, and the situation seems to be spiraling out of control. In a recent Facebook Live session, Henyard took aim at her critics, claiming that they are part of a power and money grab. During the intense 90-minute rant, she even went as far as promising to seek the arrest of her opponents, though she didn't specify any charges. Henyard painted herself as the victim of a smear campaign, saying, "All this pointing the finger at Tiffany, you're lying on me. I'm over it. Now it's time for me to fight back." Despite the growing controversies surrounding her, Henyard is not backing down and is still pushing forward with her re-election campaign, much to the frustration of many in the community. The drama continues, and it remains to be seen how it will impact her political future.
Here because I'm at wit's end, and I fear that I'm going to go into foreclosure soon if I can't get this.
Mayor Tiffany Henyard is running a vigorous re-election campaign, showing no signs of slowing down, despite a barrage of scandals and mounting legal challenges. In a statement through her attorney, Henyard declared her determination to continue fighting for the village and expressed confidence that she will receive overwhelming support in the upcoming election. Her confidence is undeniable, but it's hard to ignore the numerous obstacles she faces, being under FBI investigation, dealing with eviction proceedings, and clashing with her own trustees. On top of that, her landlord personally visited her property after months of evading rent payments. With so many scandals swirling around her, one has to wonder, how can Henyard hope to gain the trust and support of voters when her leadership has been marred by financial mismanagement, legal issues, and a lack of transparency? The question remains whether voters will overlook these controversies or demand a change in leadership. As Mayor Tiffany Henyard campaigns for re-election, she faces fierce opposition, particularly from Kiana Belcher, a member of a group of trustees challenging her leadership. Belcher has openly criticized Henyard's decision to run again, calling it absurd, and stating that the community is ready for a change. According to Belcher, Henyard's leadership has caused havoc in the village, and the residents no longer want her at the helm. The irony of the situation is that while Henyard claims to be fighting for the people, her actions suggest otherwise. She has used village funds for extravagant events, such as one featuring rapper Jay Holiday and R&B singer Keisha Cole. Additionally, Henyard has been criticized for using local police officers as personal bodyguards, pulling them from their regular duties and paying them overtime for the service. This behavior has outraged the community, with many residents questioning Henyard's priorities and leadership style, as they demand greater accountability. Many local police officers in Dolton are working over 100 hours per paycheck, often being diverted from their regular duties to accompany Mayor Tiffany Henyard, while crime rates rise and residents feel increasingly unsafe. Critics argue that rather than focusing on improving the community, Henyard appears more concerned with maintaining her own image and comfort, especially as she faces personal challenges like the end of her marriage and the looming threat of foreclosure. At a public meeting, Trustee Brittany Norwood called out Henyard for misusing police resources, stating, "We're not arguing that police aren't working. We're saying you're sending all of them to accompany you when they ought to be out there defending the locals so that everyone feels secure." Henyard's extravagant spending and self-serving actions have put Dolton's finances in jeopardy, and her refusal to step down or acknowledge the evidence against her paints a troubling picture of a leader who is out of touch with the needs of her community. Furthermore, Henyard's management of Thornton Township has come under fire as she continues to spend taxpayer money on lavish travel expenses for herself and her team. Town records show that over $67,000 has been spent on trips to cities like Portland, Austin, Atlanta, and New York City, where Henyard and her team often fly first class and stay at high-end hotels like the Four Seasons. This excessive spending continues to fuel frustration among residents, while Henyard remains defiant, insisting that she is the victim in this ongoing controversy. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's lavish spending has drawn major criticism, particularly her $13,000 stay at the Marriott in Times Square. These extravagant travel expenses have raised serious concerns about her priorities, especially given that she defends using public funds for such luxury trips. Despite earning over $350,000 annually, Henyard continues to avoid legal processes, with the sheriff making multiple attempts to serve eviction papers. Many disgruntled residents view Henyard's behavior as that of a reality show star, always performing for the cameras, while some have even compared her to South American dictators, claiming she's turned Dolton into her personal playground. Her control over the town, including the police force, and constant self-promotion have led to accusations of her abusing her position of power, neglecting the very people she's supposed to serve. What are your thoughts on this ongoing political saga? Share your opinions in the comments, and don't forget to like for more updates on this unfolding story. Subscribe for more.